Welcome to the Growth Drivers Podcast. This is the show where we share the real strategies, the scripts, and systems that we're winning in today's market when most agents are struggling.
If you're tired of listings sitting too long, buyers losing out on homes they love, or wondering which renovations actually move the needle, you're in the right place. We're Mike and Rachel Novak, and we've sold over $900 million in real estate. And today, we're still in the trenches and leading a team in one of the toughest markets in the country.
Every week, we break down what's actually working right now, from pricing strategies that get homes sold to offer tactics that win in multiple offer situations.
Let's get into it. Welcome back to another episode of the Growth Drivers Podcast. We've got an interesting one for you today. There have been so many times that we've sat down with couples when they are looking to purchase a house for the first time together, both married and unmarried. And there's a lot of discussion that hasn't happened by the time we are conversing with them about it. So these are unsexy, practical things to do before buying a house together.
And I think the reason that people don't have those conversations is because they get caught up in the fairy tale of buying a house.
Of course.
Like buying a house, like that idea is very, very fun.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's very normal when you're going through something that is fun to not consider like, you know,
The
what
realities.
are the downsides, the
Yep.
realities, the risks that I'm taking as I'm doing this. And so I think our goal is to kind of shine some light from that perspective, right?
Absolutely. And again, like that's why we're calling them unsexy but practical things to do, because whether or not you're married, you're unmarried and purchasing a property together, all of these are super critical. And so, you know, here's what we've seen: hundreds and hundreds of transactions, hundreds and hundreds of couples that we've worked with. The couples who do these things up front, like do the work up front, have these hard conversations, address these really practical and unsexy things, they end up loving the house. The expectations are set. They have done a great job kind of having mutual expectations on both sides. So we talked to them years later and they're super happy. They're excited. They were loving their property. And then the ones who skip it, or the ones who, you know, don't have these conversations, don't nail down these things, we get a call like 6 months, 12 months later because one of them compromised, didn't speak up during the planning process, absolutely hates the house or hates this part of the neighborhood or whatever it is, and they can't stand living there anymore. And that's what we try to avoid, right? Like the goal is to get people into a house that works for both of them. The compromises that you make are understandable and good compromises in the way of like, okay, I can live with that. So, you know, we've seen people sit down and discuss the must-haves, of course. We've talked about these before. The nice-to-haves. And what we see sometimes as people sit down is they haven't talked about it at all. The wife is absolutely hell-bent on this particular feature of the house, or laundry on the upstairs floor. Husband hasn't even thought about that at all. Or this spouse is like, I absolutely want neighbors. I want neighbors really close by because when we have kids, this and that. And the husband's been thinking the whole time, I want acreage, I want space, I don't want to live by anybody, right? So when you have these like polar opposite visions, it's really important to get on the same page with those. What can compromise, who will compromise what in order to find a mutually beneficial property?
Yeah, how do we reconcile these two things? And how can we create an environment of honesty where, you know, both people are comfortable speaking up on what they like and dislike and want and things like that too?
Exactly, yeah. So let's just get into these. These are 7 things that we recommend that every single couple does before buying a house together. Again, married or unmarried. So number 1, pull both of your credit reports and actually look at them together. I have literally been in a situation where the husband, once like we meet, we talk about things, you know, they're telling me their financials, everything sounds okay. They go meet up with the mortgage lender, they pull their credit reports. Oh, husband had a credit card that he didn't tell the wife about. The wife had no idea, and they actually are in $15,000 more debt than they thought, which takes a huge ding out of their purchase price. Yeah. So, like, look, there should be no surprises. There should be no secrets. Like, if you are literally talking about making the biggest financial decision of your entire life and purchasing a property with this person, you have to be completely open and honest with your financials. That is an absolute must. If there's bad news in one of your credit reports, if there's another one that I experienced, the wife had a Nordstrom card from when she was in her early 20s, totally forgot about it, had like $6,000 or $7,000 of debt that was now in collections for a couple of years. So it completely trashed her credit. So like these things are recoverable, of course, But if you don't know about them up front and you're like gung-ho excited about purchasing a house and now you're set back 6 months, that's really disappointing. So this is something to do, get on the same page about, understand like what you're looking at, the scope of the financial situation, deal with it now so that it doesn't come up when you're actually going to be searching for a house.
Yeah, and I would add additional caveat to that you have a lender do this.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a couple of reasons that you want to have a lender do it and don't do it yourself. The first one is that the algorithm used to determine a mortgage credit score is actually very different than the one that you see in Credit Karma or something like that. So I've seen that change as much as 30 to 50 points. And that could be the difference between being approved and not being approved. So
exactly.
The mortgage algorithm is just different. You have to understand that than what you see as a consumer. And it could be wildly different. The second thing is that most lenders will help you build your credit fast. And they can use what's called a simulator to determine what if scenarios. And a what if scenario could look like, hey, what if I pay my credit card down to 20% of the balance from 80%? Oh, shoot, that might move my credit score up 40 points immediately. I could do that right now. So they have the ability to give you those tools and those insights. Mm-hmm. So you're making strategic moves instead of just kind of going solo on that, you know?
Yep. Great points. Absolutely. Number 2. Now this is the most awkward one. Prepare yourself. You need to have the what if we break up conversation. Is it uncomfortable to have? Of course. But is it necessary? Absolutely. Especially, obviously, for those who are unmarried. If you're not legally tied to the person, but now you're becoming potentially legally tied to a property together, you need to really have that conversation about what if? And that sucks. It sucks to have. You don't want to think that way. But again, that's a really necessary part. How you've got to decide how the house would be handled, how would the assets be handled, how would the equity in the home be handled? Would one of you stay there and buy the other person out? Would you sell and split the equity evenly, right? You've got to kind of have a scenario in mind, not just assume what in your mind, what would happen. Because again, we've seen this, unfortunately. We've seen it happen both with married and unmarried couples, purchase a house, and then it's a huge fight because if the home has appreciated over a couple of years, that's a lot of money on the line. So if you haven't already worked out or have in writing kind of what the plan would be if something were to happen and you were to break up, you've got to know.
And there's a lot that goes into that. Mm-hmm. There's obviously a big legal perspective there. You could have an attorney draft up a quick agreement just with these what if scenarios. So it could be a list of exit options. Mm-hmm. We did that on our Montana property when we bought it with another family. We planned how each family could get out, which mm-hmm. was really smart because it kind of had those we had those hard conversations up front, thinking about the exit before we actually got into the purchase. Yeah. But if you're married, it's obviously totally different because there's the law involved and each of you own half of the house and that's going to be hammered out legally. So we never had this conversation before we bought properties together, though. Just to be honest.
I mean, 20 years later in hindsight, we're like, oh.
Yeah, I owned a few homes. You moved into them. And then later on in life, we started owning homes together.
Well, we haven't broken up yet, so I think we're good. 20 years in.
I think we need to have this conversation, actually.
Look. Anyways, back to the points. So have that conversation before. All right, that's number 2. Number 3, this is kind of goes with number 1, but you've got to get crystal clear on your actual budget, okay? Not what the lender says that you are approved for, not what on paper it says that you can afford. What can you actually afford month to month while still living the life that you want? And this is something that people do not really think about. And I think a lot of agents skip over this as well in the beginning part of the planning process is okay, great. So you're both approved and you could spend up to $7,000 a month on a mortgage. Great. Well, that might be fine on paper, right? Because a mortgage will be up to 45, 50, 55% of your income.
Up to 60, yeah.
Yeah. So but that's over half potentially of your income going to your mortgage. So is that still going to allow you to enjoy the subscriptions or the go to the games or get the tickets or do the travel or do the shop, whatever it is else that you want to do? Are you not going to be able to go out to eat as much? Are you not going to be able to get morning coffees as much? You have to think about the actual lifestyle that you want to live, both of you, and then really decide if that budget actually works for you.
Yeah, you got to ask yourself, what's the lifestyle I want? Because some people are comfortable, not spending any of their money but on their house. They just want a badass house and they want to put everything they have into it. They are homebodies. They don't travel. This is all they do. And so like the answer to this question is extremely personalized,
Yes,
right?
very custom.
And so there's a couple of things taken into consideration. The first thing is how old you are, right?
Mm-hmm.
When you're, and just to back up a little bit, let's explain debt to income because we just kind of threw that around without really framing that. Debt to income ratio is a ratio that lenders use to calculate the totality of your monthly expenses in relationship to your gross income. And gross income is before taxes come out, to be clear. So let's say for rounded numbers that you make $10,000 a month in gross income and your expenses are $4,000. And when I say expenses, I mean debt payments, okay? So that's going to be credit cards, it's going to be car payments, student loans, and yes, your theoretical mortgage payment as well. So if all those together equal $4,000, that'd be 40%, right? Just for like a very clear example. Like you said, most lenders will approve you for 55 to 60% debt to income ratio. When you're younger, most people are on the upward trajectory of making money, right? So like if you're like 25, 30 years old, the odds are very likely, depending on what line of work you're in, that you're going to make a lot more money when you're 40 or 45. Yep. Those kind of people are typically more comfortable having a higher debt to income ratio because it's temporary, right?
Exactly.
So when you're older, you're like 50 or 55 years old, your career may be going down actually, like, or you may be retiring soon. So you may have a different perspective and want to keep that ratio much, much lower. Kind of like the boilerplate number that I give people, if I know they want to have a balanced life and not just be like house rich, cash poor, is 40%. Like 40% is a nice conservative number. It's not always possible, but if you have a 40% debt to income ratio, including your mortgage payment, you're going to have a lot of flexibility still.
Yeah, such a great point. And it's so true because like if you think about, a 25-year-old, like there are those, I say kids now because we're 40s, but those, younger adults who are okay with a little bit higher payment, who understand the discipline and the sacrifice that they're making right now. Because again, they know in 5 years and 10 years, I'll probably be getting raises. I'll probably be making more money. My payment's staying the exact same, right? Yep. Whereas like you said, the opposite is an older person. Well, maybe they're going into retirement. Maybe they're on a fixed income. Like they can't risk, spending that much every month. So again, just between you and your partner or your spouse, get crystal clear on your actual budget, right? Again, not what the bank approves you for.
Yeah. And also keep in mind that very few people buy houses based off the purchase price. They base it off of a monthly payment.
Exactly.
So just keep that in the back of your mind as well.
Exactly right. Yep. Great point. Number 4, agree on who pays what. If you are a couple who just pools all their money together and then you just pay all the bills out of one account, maybe this isn't as much of a conversation. But when you are in a partnership and maybe, you pay your car payment and these couple utility bills, and then the other partner pays these utility bills and the mortgage and insurance or something like that, like you've got to get really clear on who pays what. Is it going to be everything 50-50? Or are you just going to throw into a pot and pay everything out of that account? Like, again, have this hard conversation about who's paying what. Is it based on like the income, right? So like if I make 10% less than you, then we're going to base the payments off of the percentage of income that we each make, however that works, right? So make sure, write this down, understand it, for both of you. Because again, this plays into the lifestyle that you want. And that is one of the fastest ways to build resentment in a relationship, is for one person to be carrying more of the weight when the agreement maybe was a 50-50 split or something like that. So again, whatever works for you, right? Mike and I, we were the type that pool our money together. We pay everything together. It's all ours. That's how we work. Not every couple is that way, and that's totally okay.
Yeah. Really important if you're not married.
100%. Exactly.
Like, are you just going to split these or what's the plan? So.
Exactly. Yeah. And don't make assumptions on these things for sure. Number 5. Now, this is where it gets fun when it gets to actually like talking about the property, dreaming about the home, dreaming about what you're wanting to purchase. And that is discussing the non-negotiables versus the nice to haves. Okay. So Mike and I have bought a couple of homes. We've built now a couple of homes. And so he and I both will sit down and say, okay, these are like absolute must haves for me. And some of those things Mike could care less about. He's like, okay, that's really important to you. I understand. Whatever. That's fine. I don't care. I'm impartial.
I don't need a yoga room.
Yeah. I don't want to yoga. Anyway. And then some things are like, he's like, oh, it's non-negotiable. I have to have this. Like, I have to have my cardio room and my whatever. Okay, great. So we know the other person's absolute non-negotiables. Maybe it's location, maybe it's layout, maybe it's no step, maybe whatever it is, right? Maybe it's the layout of the living room, maybe it's whatever it is.
The perfect protein supplement shelf.
That's absolutely, yeah, the perfect wall in the pantry for all your protein supplements. That's exactly what you want. So, but discuss these. Like, do you really know what is absolutely super, super important to your partner? Do you know what for them would be great to have, but they're actually willing to compromise on? Like, these are things you absolutely need to nail down, because when you get to the point of actually looking at homes, if you know, hey, you said that this is a non-negotiable and this home doesn't have it, so why are we even considering it, right? That allows you to keep each other accountable to what you said you wanted, and also room for evolution, right? If it's a nice to have, great, it doesn't have it, but I'm willing to compromise if it has this kind of a thing.
I always know that my best clients, like this, it's pretty rare that this happens. I'd say it happens like 15, 20% of the time, but they roll into our buyer consultation and it's usually the wife has a list
Oh, it's the best.
of the must-haves.
Yep.
And I always send out a video to pre-frame our meeting before we have it so they know what to expect at that meeting. And I introduce this concept of must-haves and nice-to-haves. And she usually has it broken down. Must-haves on the left, nice-to-haves on the right. They've already reconciled it. Yep. Here you go, Mike. Yep. This is what we're looking for. I'm like, perfect. We've got a mission. We are crystal clear on what's happening. But some other people haven't put that level of thought into this. But it's really, really important that you do slow down and do this. A lot of people, the way that they go about buying a house is like the complete opposite way you should do it. And they just start, like, they see a home pop up on Zillow and they're like, shit, I want to go see this house.
They like the color of the front door.
Yeah, and they run out and go look at it. And like, whoa, we don't even know what we're looking for or why we're looking for it or what locations we want. Like, that's how you make a huge, huge six-figure mistake in real estate.
Exactly, yeah. Same exact thing happened the other day with a couple of clients. We're going to be listing their house today, actually. And they're going to be purchasing later this spring. And they had, a very detailed list for me of exactly what they were looking for and then exactly what like nice to haves, but they were willing to compromise on. And that is so incredibly helpful, because if I'm trying to help them find the perfect property, they've already discussed these things like we had talked about. And now I'm able to set up a search. I'm able to keep my eyes peeled for the specific things that they're looking for. Like that makes my job so much more relevant to them, right? So when I'm sending them things, they're already like, yeah, this would actually be perfect, right? So again, this is how you go through the process with eyes wide open, knowing what the other person wants without wasting any of your time or your agent's time or the seller's time of homes that you're just looking in.
Yeah, and sometimes the non-negotiables, like I have to negotiate those. Like I'm like, hey,
tell me more.
Like your budget's $500,000. You're not going to get 2,000 square feet and 4 bedrooms,
or a shop.
Yeah, like we need to either change the budget or we need to change the expectations, because those two things are out of alignment. Or oftentimes, hey, you can get these features, but only in these locations at that price point.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it's like the location, price, features triangle becomes the conversation.
And that's such a great point. And if you're an agent listening to this, if you're somebody who works with buyers and sellers, like that is something that you need to do. Like if they come with this must have and this nice to have list, that's awesome. But if you know for a fact that must have and that location is not going to meet the budget that they have, it is your responsibility to tell them that.
Yeah, and most agents won't do that. They're like,
right.
Oh, I don't want to be like the bearer of bad news.
Guess what?
Yeah.
That's what you are.
Well, you're going to waste a lot of your time and your client's time. And you're also you're not coming from a position of integrity.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, something is not realistic and you're kind of building up false hope.
Yep. Absolutely agreed. Great point, Sonny. Number 6, you've got to build your emergency fund first. There are so many people that come to us and they've built up a pretty decent nest egg. They've got a down payment money ready. They've been preparing for this, which is absolutely incredible. But very, very important that you're, as an agent, helping explain to the buyers, like not just what costs are involved with the actual transaction of purchasing a house, but then also, do you have money left over? Or are you walking into that home absolutely so cash broke that if the water heater took a dump that day, you wouldn't even have the credit card space to fix it, right? Like, you've got to have emergency funds available. Jobs get lost, repairs happen very quickly after, homes sell. So having that, like, ideally 3 to 6 months of living expenses in the bank would be ideal to move in.
I frequently will have this conversation, and I'm very direct about this. As your agent, I need to know how much cash we have available to do this. And my follow-up question, once they answer that, is okay, is that all the money you have available, or is that just the amount of money you've got dedicated towards this house?
Yes.
And we have that exact conversation. Oftentimes, I will shift people from like putting 10% down to putting 5% down, or building in their closing costs or whatever else. So they hold on to that money. Like you don't want to move into that house dead broke. You're exactly right. Because things come up. Moving is expensive. Appliances are expensive. You're going to need new furniture oftentimes when you buy a new house. There's just all these things that come up that you don't expect. And that's all assuming that your job stays consistent.
Right.
Nothing, no medical emergencies happen, anything like that. And life happens, as we know. So 4 to 6 months, great rule of thumb on your expenses.
Yep, exactly right. And number 7, you've got to talk about the future plan. 5 years, 7 years, 10 years. Are you guys staying put in that house? Are you planning for kids potentially? Are you potentially talking about a career change in the next few years? Are you working your way up in the corporate ladder, or are you working your way out of corporate and into entrepreneurship? It's really important that the house that you buy fits where you're going, not just where you're at, right? Mm-hmm. One of my favorite examples are some clients of ours that I believe you sold a house to them in 2017. And I want to say the sale price of the house was like $270,000 way back in the day. And this family had 4 kids, 5 kids, something like that, all very, very small kids. And they moved into this house fully knowing that it was going to be like a transition house for them, right? They moved in, they were like, this house is not going to fit us all when these kids are all teenagers. Like it's fine when they're little, they can share rooms, they can share space, that's fine. But they knew going into it that the short-term sacrifice was going to help them build the equity they needed to get that forever property. And sure as shit, 5 years later, they came to us and said, okay, we've owned this house for 5 years, just like you told us. What can we sell for? What can we buy? And we sold their house for a lot more than $270,000. They were able to go buy a property with plenty of bedrooms, I think on acreage. The husband has a shop now. Like they were able to use the house for where they were going, knowing it was a transition to the next house, right? And so that's a really important part of the conversation with your spouse or with your partner is this house going to work for this season that we're going to be in, that we're going into? Is this something that we're planning on staying in 5 to 7 years and then selling to buy something new? Or is this like, no, I want, this is the house that I want to make work for the rest of my life, right? These are all conversations you really should have.
And I mean, it's a great point that so many buyers make the mistake of holding out to buy until they get what they would consider like their forever home.
Yep.
And the much smarter thing is like exactly what my clients did. They bought something that worked, that was going to get tight within about 5 years, but they could suck it up. And they they built in about $200,000 of appreciation very quickly over that 5-year period. Their timing was fantastic. They were super coachable. And so you're always going to be better off if you're renting to go ahead and buy a house and have it be tight for a while, but do think about 5 years, because 5 years, a lot of life can happen. Like if you've got no kids now and you're thinking you're going to have like 2-3 kids in the next 5 years, that one bathroom or one toilet might be a little bit of an issue. So maybe you say like, hey, I actually need 1.5 bathrooms, but I can give on the square footage or something like that. But if you're a first time buyer and you're renting, you should not be looking to buy the dream house. You should be looking to enter the market and to start building appreciation.
Well, like we like to say, it's like that first house will typically be a down payment on your potential forever house. Right? Like for those
that's
clients,
how you get to 20% down.
That's
what you live in the house for a while.
Like those particular clients, they, without doing anything else, while sacrificing living in this small house with their 5 kids for 5 years, we all know how fast 5 years goes. By living in this small house for 5 years, their payment didn't change. They were able to save some money, but their home appreciated almost $200,000. That's a lot of money for them to be able to put into the next property, keep their payment low. That was a game changer for that family. So that is what we recommend doing, especially if this is your first house, if you're for your first purchase, first property. Get something that works right now, but know what the plan is looking forward 5-7 years.
Yeah, exactly.
All right. Well, guys, that is our 7 tips that are unsexy but practical things that you really should do before purchasing a house together. And remember, real estate is the biggest purchase that you'll ever make. It's the biggest financial decision you'll ever make with your partner, especially. So treat it like one.
Yeah. And if you go to meetthenovaks.com, that's Novaks with a K, and you go to the buying tab, you can watch some of our videos where we explain what to expect through this process, which is like a really good first step, and goes a lot deeper into some of the stuff that we're talking about today. And then, of course, if you're thinking about buying, in the next like 6 months or so, reach out to us and we can have a conversation, see if we're a good fit to help you.
Yeah. Hit us up on Instagram. We're both there pretty active. I'm at Rachel Novak.
At The Real Mike Novak.
All right, guys. We'll see you next time.
See you next week.
That's a wrap on today's episode of Growth Drivers.
If you found value in this conversation, don't forget to subscribe, leave a review, and share this with a fellow entrepreneur.
For more insights, tools, and resources, visit us at thewarrioragent.com.
Keep pushing forward, keep leading with purpose, and we'll see you next time.